Downing Street says it will consider the Severn Barrage, so could new plans now go ahead?
Plans for a barrage across the River Severn have been given a boost. The Prime Minister's instructed officials to look into the latest ideas. It follows a meeting between David Cameron and developers who've even hinted overseas investors might be able to pay for the project, which would generate 5% of the UK's electricity. Scott Ellis reports.
New improved plans for a Severn Barrage, developer Hafren Power telling the Prime Minister they'd now generate on the ebb and flood of the tide, boosting electricity production, and they'd use 1,000 turbines, not just 200, each with a slower blade speed, reducing the impact on fish. But the tidal range will still be reduced from 46 to 23 feet, and the cost stays at £26 billion. Though it's understood funding could come from Qatar and Kuwait. The Prime Minister has expressed an interest, so too this tidal power expert based in Somerset.
I'm certainly not seeing much that will dissuade the government from pressing on. I think at the moment, the present momentum is that 2 or 3 years away we could well be taking a decision.
Today, Number 10 told us they'd consider the new plans carefully. This latest Severn Barrage idea might appeal to the Prime Minister. It does at least address some of the environmental concerns, and it would appear that someone in the Middle East might be willing to pay. But there's another reason David Cameron might be all ears at the moment, and it's because of the problems elsewhere in the energy sector, not least at places like Oldbury Nuclear Power Station, just a few miles up the coast from here. Investors have recently pulled out of redeveloping here, and further south at Hinkley, EDF is still in talks with the government over subsidies for a new nuclear plant. With carbon capture also proving hugely expensive, a barrage generating renewable energy could start rising up the agenda. Wildlife campaigners want more details.
There's going to be a significant change to the tidal range. That's going to have a big effect on the estuary, and that's the sort of damage that just can't be compensated for elsewhere.
Hafren Power says it will publish its renewed plans for a barrage in full later in the autumn. Scott Ellis, BBC Points West.
The Prime Minister David Cameron is said to be backing plans for the controversial Severn Barrage. It's claimed the £30 billion scheme would generate 5% of Britain's energy needs and help the southwest economy grow too.
It wouldn't cost the taxpayer a penny, but conservationists say it would have a devastating effect on wildlife. John Andrews reports on the latest development in this long-running saga.
This is how the Bristol Channel could look if a private consortium can raise £34 billion. The barrage would provide new road and rail links between Weston-super-Mare and Cardiff, as well as 5% of the nation's energy needs. The consortium behind the plan says it doesn't need a penny of taxpayers' money, and business leaders say it can't come soon enough.
The long-term benefits of this are quite literally staggering. I think the estimates are 20,000 jobs during the construction period, but importantly 30,000 long-term jobs. We can really turn our economy around with projects like this, and the far southwest is well equipped to benefit from this sort of major project.
It's claimed our Tory Prime Minister has been won over by Labour MP and former Welsh Secretary Peter Hain. He's convinced the project can pay for itself and bring huge economic benefit to both sides of the Channel without harming important wildlife habitat. Friends of the Earth aren't convinced, nor is the RSPB.
This estuary is almost like a service station on a migratory route for bird life. If it's gone, where will they stop off? They won't be able to make the journey, they won't have enough food to keep them going on their long migration routes, and you can't easily replace an estuary.
Previous projects have floundered as much on the cost as on conservation worries. £34 billion is a huge sum of money.
It's not that far short of the sort of cost of electrification on the West Coast line. A lot of these major infrastructure projects are counted in billions. These aren't frightening numbers, and they're certainly not frightening numbers for the private sector to get involved in.
A £34 billion infrastructure project like this, which promises so much without costing the taxpayer a penny, is going to be very tempting to any government. But politicians will have a hard fight to convince conservationists. John Andrews for the West Country Tonight.